we want to talk a little bit about Crime Circus and Crime Circus Cult. They have been releasing videos, but they have yet to say anything about the Idaho 4 for almost a month now. And some of their big fans are talking about it. So we've got some really interesting sound bites for you. So first, we're going to play a clip from my husband bringing up the question. Then we're going to bring up a clip from a couple of other people.
This is an emergency broadcast into the Moscow, Idaho investigation.
Hi, I just want to welcome back my husband today. Thank you for joining us again. And recently we were talking and you voiced some concerns about the true crime community. And I just thought you could tell us a little bit more about what your thoughts today.
I don't know if it's a concern, but I'm just curious where Drip Drop's been. I watched a show, Chaos Sector, that said he stole their information on a few things, and haven't seen him since. Just pretty curious, wondering where he is. Thanks. I'm just curious, why haven't I seen Drip Drop? Is it because he got called out by J.B. Gunner on doxing the president of Idaho? Or is it because of the Chaos Sector? Or is it because he talked too much about the tunnel and now he has a gag order against him? That's what I want to know.
All right. So I thought, since that's what people are talking about, this is the word on the street, maybe I'd bring up what Chaos Sector said about Drip Drop. Before I bring that up, I thought I'd just list out all the people that Drip Drop has beef with recently. So there has been Gray Hughes, J.B. Gunner, Chaos Sector, MPD, the FBI, the Cult of Odin, the Catholic Church, the President of Utah, stay-at-home mothers, grandmothers, and homemakers, the Hex Crypto Corporation, the Cowboys, who I think we have just...
The Dallas Cowboys? Oh,
no, the
Cowboys on the video. The
that we're pretty sure were FBI field.
I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah. So, and then the list does go on, but those were the major ones. And so I thought, I really do enjoy Chaos Sector. I enjoy their work and I respect them. So I thought I'd pull up their video because they do have a little beef with Drip Drop. And I think it's just
rightly
normal.
so, I think. Rightly
so.
So.
Yeah, Gia, you've seen it. All right. So let's just go ahead and see what Chaos Sector has to say.
But let me get back to the clown, because they really grind my gears. To the clown, don't claim to be the first one to claim that the police cruiser was the vehicle in the Linda Lane surveillance, because we all know you never presented that theory in the past. You viewed our episode where we presented that theory and then presented the theory to your audience as if you were the only one who had examined that. In your own words, sir.
Mockery of the true evidence that we've uncovered. Speaking of true evidence, let's check out the Linda Lane footage. We can see a vehicle that does passes at least 3 or 4 times on this footage. This seems to line up exactly with what they say in the PCA, the probable cause affidavit to arrest Bryan Kohberger. Some people are convinced this is a Hyundai Elantra. I'm not so convinced, and you're not so convinced either. And sometimes certain creators are just wrong. No matter how many times they slander me, no matter how many little animations they make, no matter how rude they are to their own audience, they're just wrong. And that's why we're going to take our own look at the Linda Lane footage with our own animation. Let's do some overlays. We're going to find out exactly whose car this is right here and right now. Allegedly. Anyways, I don't think anybody else has done this.
This fucker, I tell you. Flat out lying to those cult members, knowing damn well he got that theory from the chaos. Think about it. I want you to get inside the mind of the clown. Watch as our episode breaking that down decides to steal that theory and upload a video claiming they don't recall anyone addressing that. Disregarding the chaos. Oh, we don't have close to 500,000 subscribers like you, so we're insignificant. We don't deserve recognition from the big bad clown. We're peasants. You're stealing from peasants. Oh, most of the subs are not real people, though. I mean, this is full-fledged fuckery right here. But let's continue.
So I'm going to do it. I'm usually the first, just like when I said, boom. I was the first with that, too. So, Check out the car on the screen. We're taking the undercover police officer car and we're putting it on top of the Linda Lane footage. Let's see if it lines up. Let's see if it's a match. Is this a match? Is this cop car the car that we see on Linda Lane? Yeah, it is. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, this isn't rocket science. That car is a match. I've previously been referred to as Lord Drift Drop because I own a little piece of land in Scotland. But maybe now you can also call me the true crime animation king.
Doesn't seem like a big deal to some, but what it indicates to me is that not only do you secretly watch the chaos sector, but you essentially steal from us as well. We never steal from others, and if it's something we were inspired to research where someone discovered it first, we give credit to them and their investigative work. Because passing something off as your own authentic theory in a way where you are taking credit for that theory is very dishonest. The clown could have created his video like such. Quote, shout out to Chaos Sector, who examined the police cruiser and was convinced that it was the white vehicle in the Linda Lane surveillance. Unquote. You see how easy that is? But instead, the clown tries to take credit for something they had never previously presented to their audience. In a very narcissistic way, I might add. Don't recall the clown examining the audio in the Linda Lane surveillance neither, which clearly is linked to the murders. Many claimed it was fake audio, but a true crime investigator, which the clown considers themselves, would have to examine it firsthand to determine this. Don't recall the clown analyzing that audio from Linda Lane and linking the timeframes with the actual crime occurring at the victim's home. And all of the audio evidence would suggest that the crime occurred before, yes, before, any white vehicle was spotted. Yet, the clown can dig into some cult who they suggest may have been behind the murders. Go figure. This is not investigative work that needs to be really dug into to find it's right there in your face. Come to think about it, the clown avoids most of that entire circle of peers. Dylan and Bethany are a given, but I don't recall the clown focusing on Bonnie and Clyde, at least to the extent of linking them to the murders. We all know they're linked to the murders, by the way. It's awfully familiar to, once again, the Kanika Jenkins case. Many in the J4K community, which was also the true crime community, avoided holding Kanika's peers accountable when clearly they had conspired against her that night. The clown sends you down a rabbit hole away from the core of the investigation. And although some things are relevant, it's about pulling you away from the core of the investigation and receiving financial gain while doing so. For example, the clown's tunnel theory. Although it may have some relevance without any context or connection to anyone, such as students, you can prove use that tunnel, it's merely an empty theory. And ironically, it provokes the audience to travel down that rabbit hole, similar to the tunnel, or focusing on Bryan Kohberger and linking him to Kohberger and the murders in Idaho. Not really a problem at face value, but although I agree there's something to Kohberger's death, the clown was so eager to link his death to the Idaho murders. Kohberger was from Pullman, Kohberger was from Pullman. This doesn't mean they were associated in any way. Like pulling teeth, the clown just wouldn't give up on what he claimed was a possible connection. Now, some may agree that there is a possible connection. And that's the kicker. The relativity convinces the audience to buy into it. When right smack dab in Moscow, there is enough to dig into. For example, Dylan and Bethany. The clown obviously broke down the pair, but what they didn't do was build on knowing that the housemates were awake and aware. That is the core foundation of your investigative work. You have to start with that dynamic because it leads to the who, the what, the why, the when, the where, the how. That's how you establish your foundation. And trust me, everything starts to come together, despite not having the actual evidence at your disposal. You want to know why? Because there's something called common sense or your innate intelligence. And this is where the clown deviates from. They have the foundation, but decided to fly off the handle, suggesting some cult of Odin may have been responsible for the murders as a possible.
Well, so there it is. I thought that was the most official video put out, kind of with a beef to Drip Drop. But there were so many people talking about Drip Drop in the last month. I can recall, I haven't seen any of the videos, but Drip Drop has spoke a lot about how he hasn't called him out by name, but he's inferred that Gray Hughes has been beefing with him. And I've heard JB Gunner come out and really criticize Drip Drop on the tunnel theory. And whether or not you believe in the tunnels played a role, I mean, rather than attacking people we should debunk theories and we should talk in depth about theories. People suppress ideas and suppress speech. That's when conspiracies start coming out. What else I want to say is in the comments after I released this video with my husband, several people were commenting that they had heard Drip Drop has been getting threats. He's been getting harassment. He's had threats to his family. I've also heard rumors, and not necessarily specifically towards Drip Drop, but I've heard rumors about quiet lawsuits to some YouTubers. And I just want to bring that up because JB Gunner had also mentioned that Drip Drop had essentially doxed the president of the University of Idaho in one of his videos. And I wonder if could there be another quiet lawsuit going on? So, and Drip Drop has also spoke about him frequently being in contact with MPD. Those are just a couple things I wanted to bring up before we bring up Drip Drop's defense. Anything you want to add, Gia?
No, but and I was watching the video from Chaos Sector, and I really like they're no nonsense. I love their fuckery. I like when she says that. Yeah, when they talk about that. But anyways, I don't know. I feel like what Drip Drop might have done was go to their channel and I think he did what they said, and that's a shame. And I would hope that he maybe would learn from that after they called him out on it. But as far as why he's done nothing in a month, I don't know. It could very well be that he did feel threatened. His family felt threatened. There probably are people threatening him, whether they really know who he is or not. But he could have made the decision to cover other things for the safety of his family, and that might be accurate. Or it could be like you're saying, maybe he has information and they've called him as a witness somehow in the trial for something, and maybe the gag order applies to him. Or maybe he was served with a cease and desist from the channel. I don't know.
That's a possibility.
It'd be interesting if someone could ask him that.
Yeah, so if maybe I'll become a member. I don't know how much it is, but maybe I should become a member to Crime Circus or his Patreon. Just see if we can get an update. I mean, he's definitely on his channel.
He's doing it. So I would go on a live and ask him on a live.
That's a good idea. And I just thought Drip Drop does speak on this, but he speaks on it briefly and he speaks sort of in codes and in riddle. So I made a little montage and it talks about all different aspects of this. So I'm going to play that because I really want to put this into Drip Drop's words. And leave your comments and we want to know what you think too. So here we go. And
This is an emergency broadcast into the Moscow, Idaho investigation. The crime scene has now been officially destroyed forever. Now, evidence is gone forever. And with the destruction of the house, we now have to talk about the tunnel. This is serious, and you don't want to miss a single second of this presentation. Without further ado, let's see what I have to say for myself this time. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Crime Circus. My name's Drip Drop, and I'll be your host as always. This is an emergency broadcast. My next episode was supposed to be all about the corruption at the police department, and I have pages and pages and pages worth of notes that we are going to get to, but unfortunately not in this episode. Right here, right now, we're going to discuss the destruction of the house, but we're not going to discuss it like those other YouTubers have discussed it. The way they've discussed it is disgusting. Yeah. We're going to cut right to the chase without any filler because your time is super valuable. We're going to check out pictures. We're going to look at videos. We're going to have some insight, some input. We're going to take some guesses, and we are going to watch and observe the things we see. There is a tunnel, and there is a potential secret room. I keep trying to tell myself that this is just a guessing show. This is just someone else's fantasy. But the more that I do this, the more that I look, the more that I uncover, the more that I observe, it's scary. It seems so much more than just a guess. If someone keeps guessing things and it keeps being factual, well, whatever that means, that's your choice. People have been emailing me, messaging me, commenting all day, and somebody. I'm just doing the best investigation I can for the victims, and we're just observing what we see. Are we supposed to keep lying to ourselves? We know what our eyeballs see, and I can't lie to myself. How about you? Right here. Right here, right here, right here. Keep in mind, this was supposed to be a police corruption video. I just threw this video together spur of the moment, last minute after reviewing these news clips. As for the tunnels, I have a ton more information that I didn't even get to in this video. This really should be a two-parter because I have a whole lot of information about the tunnels in Moscow, Idaho. Pretty much every single city in the world has underground tunnels, so don't act like it's weird. Or you might be weird. I keep hoping somebody can debunk the things I'm saying, but all they do is clickbait and fake news. Anyone that's ever claimed to debunk me has only been lying to you and lying to themselves, hoping to get clicks and revenue. Don't give it to them. They're not worth your time. They're really not. I mean, seriously, think about it. Imagine doxing yourself on live stream in Moscow, Idaho, revealing you're staying at the Best Western, and then trying to cover by saying, of course, you're going to be staying somewhere much nicer than the Best Western. Don't forget to put the super chat down below. Courtesy of stay-at-home mothers and grandmothers that are funding this madman's trip. Yeah, and you know that's true. Boom! Really though, that man should stop e-begging forever. And until next time, remember to stay safe out there because you know it's a dangerous world. Jump right in. We are just going to start this video off properly with some craziness. I made a super special important video, which I'm going to link down below. And then within 24 hours of that, the FBI went into the house looking for more clues. It really makes you wonder, did they watch my video and then decide to go look for those clues? Yeah. And then I made a video on a fallen soldier. And within hours, the Pullman prosecutor made an official statement saying the police have done no wrongdoing. And nobody ever accused them of any wrongdoing. We just want the 911 call because it's a closed case. And then I made a video on the big black house on the hill with a direct line of sight to 1122 Queen Road, you know whose childhood home, and then you know who made the official statement that that house will be destroyed on December 28th, 2023. And this comes after they said they were going to preserve the house. Yeah. This is crazy. You could imagine how I feel when I make videos and then things happen shortly after. You could imagine how I feel. It's like I'm living in some sort of dreamlike nightmare or some sort of scripted reality show. And to be honest with you, it feels more like a real-life horror movie. It really does. Because how many times is this going to keep happening? This is scary. And it's getting scarier too. It kind of makes me regret making that video about the big black house on the hill with you know who that lives there. Okay, I'll just say it. The president of the University of Idaho. And his childhood home was 1122 Queen Road. Some people knew about that, yeah. But most people didn't, and I'm the biggest true crime YouTube channel in the world investigating Moscow, Idaho. You can check the numbers, they don't lie. Independently, all on our own, single-handedly, with no help from anybody else. We're basically half as big as Court TV, and we pack twice the punch. Yeah. Boom. We are the biggest true crime network in the world. And that's not even deniable. The cult numbers do not lie. We're an up-and-coming growing cult, and you love it. Yeah, you do. Anyways, maybe I shouldn't have made that video about the house on the hill. And then maybe the crime scene would have lasted a little longer. Anybody with half a brain cell knows you shouldn't destroy evidence before a conviction in a murder case. This isn't even about what's morally right or wrong. This is just basic common sense that we like to use here at Crime Circus. A lot of people in my comments section have told me I'm the best investigator in the whole world, and I'm starting to believe it. because the things that I'm seeing don't sit well with me. We've talked about crypto. We've talked about cowboys. We still don't know who the cowboys were inside that house. We don't know if there's any connection to the cult of Odin. There might be. You don't know until you investigate. You can't just throw a dart at the dartboard and assume it must be the creepy guy that moved in from out of state that's been living in Pullman, Washington for 3.5 months. And we have to ask ourselves, why were the police pulling him over so often for minor traffic infractions? And why did they ask him for his phone number? I've been pulled over a few times here and there and no one's ever asked for my phone number. So what did that lady officer need Bryan Kohberger's phone number for? Was she going to call him on his personal time, or was she doing something that she was told to do for something much, much bigger than herself? We need to know. You know we do. Now, moving right along, the tunnels. Some people still deny the tunnels. Paid disinfo agents. They're a real thing? And I think I've spotted a few. Some of them obsessively make videos on this Moscow, Idaho Bryan Kohberger case. So either they're sickly obsessed with Bryan Kohberger, or they're being paid to give you disinfo. And I think it might be a little of both, personally. They want any viewer that clicks their video to believe they're a nut, a crazy person, out of their mind if they believe in the tunnels. I'm here to tell you 100% for a fact, tunnels exist in Moscow, Idaho. This is well-documented history. It's on their official website. Anybody with a 10 seconds worth of time in a Google search engine can find tunnels exist in Moscow, Idaho. This isn't even deniable. So the tunnels do exist. The only question is, do the tunnels go to the crime scene? We don't know, but we need to know. We're guessing. It's a hypothesis. And if you don't know what a hypothesis is, let's check out the definition of a hypothesis.
Just want to give a couple immediate reactions. The first thing is that I relate to Drip Drop and Crime Circus, and just the stress of creating this podcast. I agree with him. Like, there are some things you just, when you're studying these things to create content for other people, you have to read about things at a level or in a quantity that you normally wouldn't. Like, I don't read about this type of murders and stuff like this and all these criminal activities, and now I have to binge read it to make sure I'm creating proper and accurate content for my audience. So that in itself is stressful, just reading those words that I don't normally do. I mean, I take extra precautions now. I look over my shoulder a lot. I mean, there's stress involved. Plus, there are eerie things that happen in the comments and interactions with different people I won't get into, but that causes some stress. And yeah, I just want to say I relate to some of it, but not at his level. I mean, obviously he's a much huger creator and he makes a bigger impact. So I think that the feelings that I'm saying are probably magnetized, times 100 to what I feel. The other thing is that I do think that it's really rude that people completely dismiss the tunnels altogether.
On tunnels, so don't act like it's weird.
I think the point that he's trying to make is we are looking for entry points and exit points because we don't know all of those things. We're looking at places they might have hid.
A lot of information about the tunnels in Moscow, Idaho. Pretty much every single city in the world has underground tunnels, so don't act like it's weird. Or you might be weird.
And special rooms that they did those things in. There's also dismissing that there are tunnels underneath the King Road house. It's not something you can completely dismiss altogether. There could be secret rooms in there. They don't have to be mining tunnels and they don't have to be utility tunnels. I've heard from people there that there was, and I can't prove this as a fact, but Gia and I are both from the Northeast and we're familiar with the Underground Railroad, which was something that helped African Americans move to a place where they weren't, move from the deep South where they were enslaved up north. And people have talked about some of these underground railroads could possibly be in Pullman. So there could be that house could potentially be, at least not the newer edition, but the older edition could possibly be that old that could be to the Civil War era. So I just don't like dismissing anything. If you don't like an idea, then debunk it. You know,
Right.
don't
And
just
I
yell.
wouldn't. Yeah.
Fight
To
the
your
idea
point.
of the person.
I'm sorry.
No?
I keep.
No,
To
keep
your point about the underground tunnels, because you're in New Hampshire right now, so the house next door to us, growing up, that house was part of the Underground Railroad, and there are tunnels under that house even. So I mean, I agree with him. There are tunnels everywhere. There are tunnels everywhere. I wouldn't dismiss anything like that. It doesn't sound crazy to me at all.
Thank you, Gia, and also, do you speaking of stress, I mean, obviously you don't sit around reading about, true crime all the time. You obviously increased your volume in the 5 months we've been covering this. Do you feel any additional stress? I mean, you must, just repetitively reading those words over and over again. I mean, do you want to speak on that a little bit, or any of your personal feelings on that?
I mean, I'm a true crime junkie. I love it. I have to say, like back in the day, I'm older than you, but I remember my friend turning me on to Anne Rule, who was like one of the very first true crime writers, at least one that I ever. And she, do you know who she is, Anne Rule?
No.
She wrote about Ted Bundy. She actually worked in a call center for, I think, suicide prevention with Ted Bundy, and he'd been to her house, commented about her daughter. I mean, just like, and then realized after he was the serial killer, and she wrote a book about him. But I just find it intriguing and interesting. But I think with this, the way I get stressed is there's just so much information coming out from so many different places, and the stress for me is trying to figure out, what do we believe? What don't we believe? What is okay to present? What should we stay away from? Because especially with the platform like YouTube or anything else like that, we're kind of lucky. We have very nice viewers, and the comments are usually on track and lovely and all of that. But I do watch other shows, and I see some of the comments, and that would really stress me out, is when people start getting combative and missing the mark on, like, because we've always said the whole reason for doing this are those 4 lives that were lost, and we want to keep that in the forefront. And sometimes that gets lost in the weeds when people start going off down rabbit holes and this and that. And I think that's what's frustrating to me, is really wanting to get to the trial. I know there needs to be time for all the evidence to be discovered and looked at and investigated and gone through. But I do feel a sense of urgency to get to the trial, because there's been so much talk over all these months that I would like to finally see some facts and hear the testimony, and to really be able to dive deep into it and see where the speculation was adding up and where it wasn't. I think we're going to have a lot of answers.
I know. I want to hear some of these facts. I want to hear the evidence. I want to know. I want this case to begin. And that is something I keep thinking about, is we have all of these guesses that we made, and it's going to be so interesting to know where our instincts led us correctly and where they didn't. Just to speak on what you were just saying, I agree. And just so I know Drift Drop will get a notification that we're using his work, and we're going to mention him or tag him so he gets one. And we just want you to know, Drift Drop, we miss you. Please come back. Please come back and report on the case. We want to hear your thoughts.
Right. And we're genuinely curious, because you had such good material and you were coming out with it so often, and it really made us think about a lot of things. And so we've missed watching. Yeah. And we're just curious. We know you're okay because you're reporting on other things, but yeah. Just curious if you lost interest or.
Yeah, we want to know, Drip Drop. And just to throw one of your quotes back at you that we just played, you said you are the largest true crime investigator covering the Idaho 4. Your quote, not ours. So come back, and we want to know what you have to say. We want to know. We need to know.
Yeah. Yeah. Because someone mentioned maybe he's just sitting back because there's really nothing going on right now, and until we get to that doesn't seem his style.
No, there's plenty going on. And he had,
Well, yeah.
he was supposed to do a police corruption video. It was supposed to be his next video, and he didn't do it. Or I hope when we're
Okay,
looking
Mark B said Drip Drop said he'd stay with the case to the end. And so, yeah, I guess there must be a reason. I guess it's probably not just he's bored. What did you say? What, my brother?
He gave me a bunch of questions. So let's see. Oh yeah, the other thing we wanted to ask, if I hadn't asked already, if we do have any members of Drip Drop's channel watching, if he is uploading content regarding specifically the Idaho 4, let us know. Yeah, I think that's all the questions that I have. But anyway, but again, Drip Drop, please come back. We want you here on YouTube.